Welcome to From the Game to Grace, the podcast where real life begins after the final whistle. Hosted by Jarius and Candace Hayes, a former pro athlete and his powerhouse wife. This show dives deep into what happens when the spotlight fades, the crowd goes silent, and the real work begins. It's not just about football, it's about faith, identity, marriage, mental health, family, and learning how to grow through what you go through. From championship dreams to personal heartbreak, Jarius and Candace don't just talk about it, they've lived it. So if you're navigating a new season, wrestling with purpose, or just trying to hold it all together, you're in the right place. Let's get real. Let's heal.
Welcome from the Game to Grace. This is Candace Hayes. I am the co-host of From the Game to Grace, and
I'm Jarius Hayes.
And listen, we talk about the toughest transition with married couples and how to navigate those transitions in a more positive way. So that's what we do. We just help couples navigate life's biggest transitions and just kind of help you navigate through them and to be with a more positive impact. So guess what? Today, Jarius, we are going to discuss this, how can I say it? We're going to discuss this term conflict, navigating conflict. And in most marriages will have conflict. And it's just a matter of how you're going to get through the conflict. And so we're going to go ahead and, dive into the, into the conflict. Like some of the things, that happen, it's those words. And people say, stick and stones might break my bones, but words are never hurt. Well, yeah, words do hurt. And sometimes when you are in a heated argument, things can be said. Things can be said, and then sometimes you can't take those things back after they've been said. Of course, you can apologize, but sometimes back in, sometimes in the back of your mind, it's you're still thinking about, what that spouse might have said to you. So, we're just gonna kind of talk about that. And like in the heat of the moment, you say things that you really might not mean, and we'll just start from there.
Yeah, man, because words can either build your marriage up or words can tear your marriage down. Like it says in Proverbs 18:21, death and life is in the power of the tongue. Well, especially when there's an argument or when there's conflict, and what'll happen is, you'll say something to your spouse that you really didn't mean, but because you're out of control emotionally, you said it. And even though you didn't mean it, you said it. And so when you said it, mm-hmm. those words that you said penetrated their heart. And they're like, man, I didn't know you felt that way about me. And you probably don't, but because you were upset and mad, when you said it, it came out your mouth. And also, like out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so people figure if you said something, you meant it. And so when you may be arguing with your spouse or may be in some kind of conflict with your spouse, and you say certain things and it cuts them deep, a lot of times your marriage is never the same after that. And so, when dealing with conflict, when arguing, when Because as a married couple, you gonna argue and it's gonna be conflict.
Right.
That's
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, you must be able to control your emotions and not speak words out your mouth that could harm or be abusive to your spouse. Mm-hmm. And so, because like those words could be the beginning of the downfall of your marriage. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the words that you spoke, you probably didn't even mean it when you said it, but you said it.
Yeah.
And they'll never forget what you said.
Yeah.
And they'll never forget how it made them feel, how those words made them feel when you said it. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, it's so important that when there's conflict, you really got to take control of your emotions before you get to verbalizing how you feel about a situation. Mm-hmm. Because in an instant, you can destroy your marriage in an instant.
Yeah. Just by words.
Just by words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just by words.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And words as weapons, like sometimes, if you've been around any married couple or your marriage, some of those words, those hurtful words, like I can't stand you, or you get on my nerves, or you stupid.
And words are not only can be hurtful, but in a lot of instances, words are controlling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Words are controlling. So, yeah. I mean, and if you grew up in an environment where you saw a husband and wife just going at each other mm-hmm. and just saying things to each other, and you grow up and you find yourself acting the same way, yeah. But you don't realize, their marriage could have endured that kind of mm-hmm. back and forth.
Yeah.
But your spouse may not could take them words like they was able to take them.
Right, yeah. Different era.
Right. And so mm-hmm. you gotta be cautious of mm-hmm. the words that come out of your mouth towards your spouse. Because a lot of times we wouldn't talk to anybody mm-hmm. as bad as sometimes we may say as bad as we talk to our spouses mm-hmm. when we get mad.
Right, yeah.
When we get upset. Mm-hmm. So, keeping a watch over your mouth towards your spouse when you get upset is very vital in marriage, because those words in the heat of the moment yeah. could be the beginning of the end of your marriage.
Mm. Then too, I wanted to add that the brain, it takes up files, like, for instance, like when there's an argument and then words are being used, like, hurtful words, the memory keeps a file of those. It's just like a filing cabinet with files. Well, the brain keeps a memory of those files. And it's like each time, there's an argument, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. Unless, you guys come to some type of resolution and some type of, I would call it like a fight agreement. And that fight agreement is like, okay, well, we're going to sit down. We're going to take 20 minutes out just to calm down before we say anything to each other, and have rules, set in place. Like those rules you have set in place, like we not going to cuss each other out. Nobody's going to fly off the handle. Nobody's going to talk about the other person's family member. It's your folks, they crazy, or your folks did this, or your folks did that. It's none of that, none of that. And then that silent treatment where you don't talk to your spouse for days. I think that's wild, and especially if you have children that you're bringing up. They see that. They'll see that friction, that's going on, and it's not only awkward for them, but it's awkward for the whole family. The mom and dad not saying anything to each other. It's and it's unhealthy. We're really, as a culture, we're really setting those unhealthy habits and that are passed down to each generation. So, just some of those things that we could do, like if Jerry upsets me, most of the time I'm just not going to say anything. And he knows that. He'll know that I'll just be quiet. And then I'll go back and say, that was mean. And then one time I said, "You just a mean old man." And then he was like, "What? No." And, we just kind of started talking, but we laughed at it because we're at the point where right now, like, like what?
Right.
Like that just.
And man, like, if you be married any length of time, it's going to be time where you get tired of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just be like, man.
Yeah.
Man, gone. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
And but even in those times, what comes out of your mouth is vital to it's vital to having a healthy marriage.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, people can make you feel really bad with words. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can really take you down through there with what they say about you. And so, especially when your spouse get mad at you and y'all just going at it, man, that could be the most damaging time, in the marriage. And as time passes, you be like, man, I don't know why I said that to her, or I don't know why I said that to him. You know what I'm saying? Even though I was mad, I really didn't mean it.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, you said it, whether you meant it or not, you said it, and it was hurtful. And sometimes they'll get over that hurt, and sometimes they'll hold on to it for years.
And years and years and years.
And they'll bring up, you remember when you said this to me?
And that, yeah.
That was back in 2005.
Yeah, and it's 2026.
And I remember when you said this.
Yeah.
And they'll throw it back on you.
Yeah, right.
And you be like, oh man, I said it, but I didn't mean it.
Yeah, you talking about something happened 30 years ago.
So it's very important that, you got to get control of your tongue when there's conflict, when there's issues arise. You got to get control of it.
So the difference, it's a difference between venting, and I asked him this, it's a difference between venting and verbal abuse. Venting is you're speaking of your frustrations, and that verbal abuse is
directed.
Yeah, like
you directing it towards you.
It's direct, and it's like those harsh words.
Right.
So those are it's a difference, and knowing the difference, can be very helpful. Knowing the difference and kind of like talking through. And I know when we first got married, one thing that we said, I told him, I said, hey, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to be doing all that fussing and all of that. I don't know. I just felt like it just wasn't I just didn't like that lingo, right. That, all that hollering and going back and forth and stuff. I just didn't like that. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And so that's one thing we agreed on real quick when we first got married. And till this day, you can ask our kids, you can ask anybody. We do not do all that hollering and arguing and all that. We just don't do it, so.
Not that we're perfect.
Right,
But,
yeah.
But what you have to do in marriage, you gotta set a standard early on how you want your marriage to be and how you want to operate in your marriage. Now, it may not always work out how you set it up at first, but at least you got some kind of guidelines where, okay, we got off right here. Let's get back to what we said. Let's get back to not arguing and fussing. Let's get back to, not saying hurtful words to each other. Even though you may go off to the left or to the right, if you set a standard in your marriage and both of y'all are in agreement, you can come back to that standard. You know what I'm saying? But when you don't set any standards and anything goes, then
anything goes. Yeah.
And that's with anything, not in marriage, but that's with raising kids. That's with anything. You got to set a standard that we want to at least try to do this and do this. Try not to do this. But when you don't set any standards, anything goes, and who knows what your marriage ends up to be. So
like an apology, and sometimes when things happen, there does need to be an apology, that's made, and you're not deflecting, taking responsibility of you might have said something that hurt the other spouse. Not making excuses, just take ownership. Just say, okay, I'm sorry, that I hurt you, or I'm sorry I made you feel that way, or I didn't know, you felt like that,
Right. And it also breaks your pride down too.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of times you need to say you're sorry, but you don't want to.
Right. Yeah. And then sometimes you'll say, "Well, I said I was sorry. What else would you want? What else you want me to say?"
And that pride is just like, and so, but communicating with your spouse when you see that you may have fallen short. I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have did this. That goes a long way in maybe restoring
the trust.
Okay. Communication. I know what I said may have hurt, but
and then and just talking it out. And sometimes it's good to talk it out in public places, like they say, because you're really not going to act a fool in a public place, right? Well, sometimes.
You hope not.
Well, you hope not, but that's what they say. They say the best thing to do, to kind of, break the ice and all that is to go to dinner in a public place and kind of.
Some people ain't there yet.
Yeah, right.
Some people need to stay in private
But just kind of, just kind of talk it out.
Yeah, you got to do, because we can give you suggestions, but at the same time, you got to find out what works for your marriage.
Yeah.
And however you communicate in your marriage, just make sure you don't allow your emotions to speak. Don't allow your anger to speak, and cause hurt to your spouse that you, like I said earlier, that they may not recover from.
Yeah. I as I was just sitting here, I was thinking about when we first got married, like our first year of marriage. You're back and forth at practice and all of that, and you had told me, you was like, I need for you to, wash all my clothes and not not leave my socks and my undergarments out. I need you to wash all of them. And I was like, he got to be crazy if he think I'm about to wash all them whiteys. And so, I mean, and that, it really did something to me because I was like, I'm not about to wash his whiteys. I'm not. And so I thought I was big and bad gonna call my daddy and say, hey, I'm ready to come back home. He was like, what you talking about, Candy? I said, I'm not about to wash his whiteys. He said, girl, what you talking about? And then I said, he talking about, I need to wash all the clothes. He was like, you do. He was like, why would you not wash all the clothes in some clothes? He was like, he said, that man done set you up and all you got to do is wash clothes and you don't want to wash clothes? He was like, girl, what's wrong with you? I said, Dad, I can't take this. I can't take it. I said, I'm coming back home. He said, how you coming back home? I said, and then I got to thinking, I said, well, I was thinking about, he was like, oh, no, I ain't about to do nothing. And see, but I tell you this, sometimes parents will side with their children and handicap them with just that, and they'll go along with their child instead of being a mature parent and saying, hey, no, you married this person for rich or for poor. You said all those vows. You had supposed to meant what you said. You didn't just marry somebody just to be married and be cute. So my point is, my daddy could have sided with me and said, all right, well, just come on back home. No, what he did, he made the right decision to tell me, girl, stop being silly and go and wash that man's clothes and cook his dinner and do whatever he needs you to do while you at home. But you have to know my dad though.
And also, like, I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
And also, you have to be to a point where, and she was saying this, and in my mind I was like, what? But I didn't say nothing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I say, well, it's something deeper than just the clothes.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. I just kind of looked at her and I just went on about my business. And, it was resolved without me saying anything. Because I could have.
Yeah. And that would have been even a bigger argument.
And as we look back on it, you see how those small things could cause a big argument or cause big conflict. And not to say that we would have broke up, but it could have caused a lot of contention in the marriage over something that really wasn't anything.
Yeah.
But however, when you get in conflict, somebody has to be able to be mature in the situation and say, like, okay, I could have said something back or I could have did something back, but I just kind of looked at her and I just kept going about my business. And it got resolved without me saying anything. But that's a good example of how something so small could have blew up into something big and could have been turned out to be something crazy over something that small. And that's and a lot of times that's how a lot of marriages start out going in the wrong direction. It's a small thing.
It's a very small. Yep.
Those small things, and it just like it blows up
over time.
And it becomes something bigger. And I said this, I think, in one of past episodes we did, when I said concerning a lot of marriages that didn't make it. And, I'm not naive into thinking that some marriages, people had to
step away. Yeah.
I get it, because there was some things going on, and then they had to step away.
Yeah.
But in some marriages, I truly believe, as they look back on it, and they look at some of the things that caused them to, fall apart. As they look back on it, I guarantee you, they look back and say, you know what? A lot of those things that we dealt with wasn't that serious, and we could have made it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and so that was just something small. And even though I was kind of surprised, because I just came in the house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she was coming at me with this. I'm like, what?
Well, and then here's the thing too. Now I was pregnant, so my hormones were everywhere, and then it was hot in Arizona. I mean, it was just hot. Right. So being hot and then being away from family, and then me being pregnant, and then having 2 small kids, it was just,
right.
My emotions, my hormones, where it was, just going everywhere.
And I took all that into consideration, and that's why I didn't. In my mind, I was saying some things, but I didn't say nothing out my mouth. I was just looking in like amazement, but I kept my mouth shut, and things resolved, and that was a small issue that we kept it small and we kept it moving. So, and that was it on that situation.
Yeah.
But that is funny though when you look back on it.
Yeah. Right. And so those are things, that can happen. And sometimes when you and especially when you try to get parents involved, you sometimes that's the wrong thing to do, get parents involved with your marital situations, because after you have actually forgave your spouse,
right.
Then your parents thinking about, they still mad.
Right.
They still mad at
something that you may have told them.
Yeah, something that you may have told them.
Right.
And so that's why I really never did voice our disagreements that I had with my mom and dad, because I did one time, and then it taught me a lesson. So I didn't anymore. So, and even with our daughter and our son-in-law, I don't want to know what's going on, with y'all stuff. Just now, if it's something detrimental, then that. But other than that, we don't get into their business, because they need to come into agreement with each other.
Right.
They made those vows to each other. They made those vows to God, and we stay out of their business. And then when my son gets married, we staying out of their business. Right. It's just, now if they ask for advice or whatever, then we'll give it to them. But other than that, hey, they're on their own, because we have to. And sometimes you have to understand, when you've raised kids, you have to trust the God, that you poured into them, that they will do the things that you have put in them,
right?
And go from there. So that that's that. Right. So that's what all that.
And that's big, because all of us have seen how when a couple have brought other people into their marriage, whether it was their mother, father, or a relative or friend, and we saw how negative that could turn out, because they brought others into their marriage, and it was never intent for that to happen, be like that.
Right. Yeah.
And you better leave my cousin alone. You better treat her right. And it's like, what? What you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and she done went over there and told all the business to the cousins.
But I think, like we said in a past episode, how when things are coming against your marriage, that's the time for you to come together.
Yeah.
Not become enemies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to come together and say, okay, well, we're going to get past this issue that we got to resolve. We're not going to become enemies. You know what I'm saying? We're going to come together and come against what's coming against our marriage. So I think that's important.
Yeah. So just to kind of, recap all of this, really you just talk these things out, have a fight agreement, and not, literally fighting, but that agreement where you are, okay, take 20 minutes. Hey, I need 20 minutes. I need to take 20 minutes. I just need to, just let me be calm. Let me calm down, instead of, just flying off the handle and saying hurtful things and flying off the cuff, So don't, and then don't, when I say that silent treatment, it doesn't mean not to talk to your spouse for days at a time.
Right.
That means just at the time, just pause. If it's a pause for 20 minutes or an hour, just pause. So after you have cooled down, you can have an adult to adult conversation with each other where both of you guys are on the same page, on the same, you're level headed, with it, and say, hey, this hurt me, or this didn't feel right when you said that, and then then take responsibility that you did maybe upset your spouse, and not say, well, I said I was sorry, that's what else you want me to say.
Right.
So and so and that, and then
talk about the words.
Yeah, those words, they hurt. And then too, if you need therapy, get therapy, and it's okay. Therapy is okay, and in our culture, we
kind of frown upon it.
We kind of frown upon it, but we need it, and it's okay to get therapy. It's just like you going to the doctor for anything else. It's just for your mental wellness, and I think sometimes that's why it's so many people out here, that are on edge, because they really need to talk to someone, but they don't know how. But this is how to do it. Go and talk to somebody professional, not your relatives, because they're not professional,
Like in the physical, you pray, but you still go to the doctor.
Right, yeah, right.
And in marriage, you can still pray, but you can still go to therapy also, or counseling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it at all. And so those are just, things as a recap, that we went over, just that heat of the moment, taking a pause, and,
and being careful what come out your mouth.
Yeah.
When you get angry at each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, because when you get angry and you say words that you don't mean, but your spouse don't know that you didn't mean what you said.
And then they're keeping a file. That brain and that memory keeps a file. Like, I remember when he said that. Or I remember when she said that.
And it's 3 months later and they still
thinking about it.
Thinking about what you said when y'all got mad at each other that night. You know what I'm saying? And those words, they hurt, and it's a long lasting hurt. It's not a hurt that you can just whatever.
Yeah. What's that scripture you was talking about earlier?
Death and life.
Yeah, death and life are in the power of the
Proverbs
tongue.
18:21.
Yeah, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So you have to be careful what you say to your spouse, what you say, in front of your kids, what you say in front of your family. It's important.
Never diss your spouse in front of other family
members, because really you're dissing yourself, because you're one.
Yeah, I've seen that through people, and that's not a good look at all. That's because y'all regardless of how mad y'all are with each other, don't nobody else need to know that.
Right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody else need to know that.
Yeah. So that's what we have today, and If you got any takeaways from this, we would love for y'all to comment in the comment section, and let us know what kind of takeaway that you got from this particular episode.
Right.
And again, we're here, just helping couples navigate, those toughest transitions in life, where it's, the conflict of that conflict of, navigating the conflict of, of getting into it with each other, or health challenges, financial challenges. I mean, these are all things that we have been through. So it's just really based off of our experience and kind of talking about it, and some of the things that people just don't talk about. And these are things we feel like it should be positive and not negative, and all the fluff and all the drama, but these are like real life things,
Right.
That need to be talked about. So that's why, we have this podcast, From the Game to Grace, and make sure that you are extending grace to someone all at the same time, even with this episode,
Right.
extend that grace to your spouse or your family members or whoever it is. Make sure you're extending grace. And you got anything else you want to say? Okay. So we are done. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we thank y'all for joining in this conversation. If you think it should help somebody, tag them. And that's it. We're out of here. Peace.